Welcome to Psych with Sigmund, the show where we dive into the fascinating world of psychology and explore the concepts that shape our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Today, we're going to talk about the role of dopamine in motivation and reward, a fundamental concept in psychology that underlies many aspects of human behavior. To start with, let's define what dopamine is and how it relates to motivation and reward. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger in the brain that plays a crucial role in regulating pleasure, reward, and motivation. When we experience something pleasurable or rewarding, our brains release dopamine, which reinforces that behavior and motivates us to repeat it. This process is often referred to as the reward loop. The concept of dopamine's role in motivation and reward has its roots in the 1950s and 60s, when psychologists like James Olds and Peter Milner discovered that stimulating certain areas of the brain could produce pleasurable responses in animals. Since then, our understanding of dopamine's role has evolved significantly, thanks to advances in neuroimaging techniques and behavioral studies. One of the key theories that explains the role of dopamine in motivation and reward is the dopamine hypothesis, which suggests that dopamine release is crucial for motivating behavior. According to this theory, dopamine acts as a go signal, promoting approach behavior towards rewarding stimuli. This theory has been supported by numerous studies, including those using functional magnetic resonance imaging and positron emission tomography scans. Another important concept related to dopamine is the idea of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation refers to the drive to engage in an activity for its own sake, whereas extrinsic motivation is driven by external rewards or pressures. Research has shown that dopamine release is associated with both types of motivation, but intrinsic motivation tends to be more sustainable and rewarding in the long run. For example, educators can use this knowledge to design more effective learning environments, incorporating rewards and novel experiences that stimulate dopamine release and enhance student engagement. In therapy, understanding dopamine's role can help clinicians develop more targeted interventions for conditions like addiction, where dopamine dysregulation is a key factor. A fascinating area of research related to dopamine is its interaction with other neurotransmitters, such as oxytocin and serotonin. Oxytocin, often referred to as the cuddle hormone, interacts with dopamine to enhance social bonding and trust. This interplay between oxytocin and dopamine can motivate behaviors that promote social connection and cooperation. However, it's also important to acknowledge the potential downsides of relying too heavily on dopamine release for motivation. Overemphasis on immediate rewards can lead to a lack of intrinsic motivation and an inability to persevere through challenges without external incentives. Furthermore, excessive dopamine release can contribute to impulsivity and addiction, highlighting the need for balance in seeking pleasure and pursuing meaningful goals. To illustrate these concepts, let's consider a few examples. Imagine you're trying to quit smoking, but you find it hard to resist the temptation of having a cigarette after dinner. This is because the act of smoking has become associated with dopamine release, making it a challenging habit to break. On the other hand, if you're an avid reader, you might find that getting lost in a good book provides a sense of pleasure and reward, motivating you to continue reading. In conclusion, the role of dopamine in motivation and reward is a complex and multifaceted concept that underpins many aspects of human behavior. From its involvement in reward processing and motivation to its implications for learning, social behavior, and psychiatric conditions, dopamine plays a critical role in our psychological functioning. As we wrap up today's episode, remember that understanding how dopamine works can empower you to make positive changes in your life. By recognizing the ways in which dopamine influences your motivations and behaviors, you can harness its power to drive meaningful achievements and cultivate a more balanced approach to seeking pleasure and pursuing reality. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.